Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Staples. You're going to hear a lot about I'm not talking about the little metal contraptions that hold paper together. I'm talking about the office supply company. My prediction for tomorrow is that at least once Mitt Romney's going to figure out a way to work into his debate the fact that he was an early investor in Staples. Now, first of all, Bain was a minority investor in Staples. They were one of 8 major investors in Staples. Secondly, most of Bain's business model was not investment, just pure investment, the way that they did with Staples. But third, and I think this is the most important part, the business model that Staples uses, in my opinion, represents the cancer stage of capitalism. It's also what Mitt Romney claims is one of his biggest accomplishments at Bain Capital. And as I said, you can expect to hear him talk about it during the debate. So what exactly did Romney accomplish at Bain Capital by investing in and growing Staples? Well, frankly, it produced the destruction of one slice of the American economy. Consider this. Economies are actually complex ecosystems with lots of interdependent players and basic rules. In nature, a wide range of players is called biodiversity, maintained by varying ecosystems like the Arctic and jungles and plains and oceans and all that kind of stuff. Nature's ecosystem is also maintained by evolution, creating predator, prey, and other symbiotic relationships. And the rules that govern nature's ecosystems are the rules of physics and biology. When the rules are distorted by things like us cutting down rainforests and turning them into single-crop farmland, biodiversity crashes, and eventually the ecosystem turns to desert. At the level of a single animal or person, when the natural interplay of various organs and parts of the body is overcome by a single line of cells rising up and taking over all the resources of the body, we have a word for that. We call it cancer. So to economies. In economies, the rules of the economic ecosystem are created by governments, and diversity is created by laws that prevent companies from becoming cancer-sized. We also put into place rules to prevent industries from being dominated by a small handful of companies that create the economic equivalent of replacing a highly diverse forest with 1 million acres of corn that will eventually become desert or dust bowl. So back to Staples. When one company is able to become so big and destroy all of its competitors and the economic diversity, it too becomes a form of cancer, an economic cancer. And we as a nation have known this for a long time. I mean, we understood this about business for a century, which is why Senator John Sherman, a Republican from Ohio, introduced the Sherman Antitrust Act in 1890, which says every person who shall monopolize or attempt to monopolize or combine or conspire with any other person or persons to monopolize any part of the trade or commerce among the several states or with foreign nations shall be deemed guilty of a felony. It's the Sherman Antitrust Act. Still on the books. The point of that law was to keep small businesses alive and prevent any company or small handful of companies from becoming economic cancers or producing economic deserts or dust bowls. We also prevented the worst kind of business predation by saying that if you wanted to buy a business, you had to do it with your own money. Or if you borrowed money, you were the one responsible for paying it back, whether the business succeeded or failed. Those laws worked out pretty well in the century from Senator Sherman's time until the 1980s. And then Ronald Reagan blew it all up with Reaganomics. Reagan oversaw the end to laws regulating mergers and acquisitions, and that not only led to the M&A mania of the 1980s, but also paved the way for Mitt Romney, Staples, and the destruction of the American middle class. At Bain, Romney made money not by borrowing money himself, but by dumping the debt from the purchase of a company onto that company itself. This let private equity vulture capitalists like Romney win whether the company survived or died. If the company survived, it paid back the debt, and Bain made money, piles of money. If the company went bankrupt, the debt went into bankruptcy with it, and Bain made money on the fees that they charged every step along the way. None of their money was at risk. Meanwhile, with Reagan stopping the enforcement of the Sherman Act, big companies started wiping out their smaller competitors. We saw it happen with restaurants, hotels, department stores, gas stations, And then they went after the local office supply store and stationery store. Soon Staples had put hundreds of these small mom-and-pop local stores out of business and replaced them with giant, big stores that sell products made in low-wage countries and pay their store employees, all non-unionized, by the way, just above minimum wage. This is what Mitt Romney accomplished with Staples. He destroyed thousands of small family businesses and replaced them with, do you want fries with that? Wages. And today, as Dave Johnson over at truthout.org, he's got a great piece on this topic. He writes, average Staples salaries for job postings nationwide are 51% lower than average salaries for all job postings. The pay at Staples appears to be around $8 to $10 an hour, $16,000 to $20,000 a year, certainly not enough to support a family or even pay rent in many areas, never mind buying food. End of quote. This destruction of local mom and pop shops and the herding of previously well-paid workers into low-wage jobs at massive transnational corporations, this represents what I call the cancer stage of capitalism. And its standard bearer, its face, its king is Mitt Romney. He used these new rules for mergers and acquisitions that Reagan gave him to become a half-billionaire. He invested in big box giant Staples, which has wiped out large parts of the American small business landscape. And he'll probably brag about Staples in the debate Wednesday as though he had accomplished something, as though his success at Staples somehow qualifies him to be president of the United States. And you know what? Staples should be a part of the debate. It should be included in the question, do we want cancer-style capitalism? Do we want to continue to be a nation where all of our small local businesses that pay well and are involved in and committed to the community, that they're replaced by big box outfits that pay crap wages, buy their products from low-wage countries, and funnel all their profits to a small handful of rich guy investors like Romney? And do we then want those rich guy investors to pay less than half the income tax rate, the federal income tax rate, of working people after they did so much damage to our economy? I mean, seriously. Let's talk about some real issues in the presidential debates. Issues that have to do with the survival of the American middle class and our economic ecosystem. Now, given the state of our media, I'm not holding my breath, but maybe if enough of you let the media know you'd like to hear a real debate on Reaganomics, the damage it's done, and how Romney both profited from it and wants to double down on it, maybe, just maybe, we could have that conversation in America. It's a conversation that I've been calling for years. It's a conversation that I laid out in my book, Rebooting the American Dream. It's how do we reestablish a middle class? How do we undo the damage that Ronald Reagan did to this country when he stopped enforcing the Sherman Act and we became a nation of virtually every industry being dominated by fewer than a half dozen companies? We became a nation of monopolies. How do we undo the damage that happened during the Reagan administration when he crashed the top tax rate down to 28%, it's the 35%, now took it down from 74%, and thus pumping all this hot money into the economy, creating bubble after bubble after bubble. We always get bubble economies when the top tax rate is below 50%. How do we undo that damage? How do we undo the damage that was done, frankly, during the Clinton administration, signing NAFTA and GATT and the WTO? And that has been pursued by, with a vengeance by George W. Bush and now even Barack Obama signing these trade agreements. How do we undo that? Let's have that conversation. Let's have that debate. Somehow I doubt that's going to happen Wednesday night. And in fact, tomorrow we'll be talking about, what should be on the topic, what would be interesting. I would love to have that debate. Let's hope.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
In fact, beyond let's hope, you can contact the people who are putting on the debates and say, I'd like to hear about this. How about our trade policies?